Hi, this is Daniela, and welcome to Bestie Life, the podcast, where we help you stop burnout now. If you're tired of running on empty, juggling all the things, and wondering when your life is supposed to feel better, you're in the right place. This show is your go-to space for real talk and practical strategies to help you protect your energy, create balance, and actually enjoy the life you're working so hard for. You'll get a mix of solo episodes and honest conversations with guests. My goal is to help you feel less alone, more empowered, and way more in control of your time and energy and well-being. So let's get into it. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast. And today I'm so excited to have this conversation with Helen Ebden. She works with business owners similarly to me to help them really manage the energy required to kind of tackle their workload so that they don't feel overwhelmed and out of control. She helps make them more productive by using the latest brain science research, which I love talking about because so many times I think people they see this maybe a little bit as woo or fluffy or things like that, but there's so much science behind this that it just makes sense. And I'm excited to dive in and really talk about all of this. So Helen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Daniela. It's really lovely to be here today.
So that was probably, I think, one of the briefest intros I've ever done, but I would love to hear you share your own story and journey about how, you help people and what they can get from you.
Yeah, I think probably the best thing would be to actually just tell you a little bit about where I came from and where I started, and that kind of will
Yeah.
explain why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. So I started off my career as a graphic designer, and as my first business grew, I employed people to do what I was doing. It was the thing that I loved most, and that was graphic design. So they did that, and I took on new and unfamiliar responsibilities. So things like business admin, marketing, liaising with clients, project management, business development, the list goes on and on. And for most business owners, they're really familiar with wearing all of the hats. They were all areas that I didn't know a lot about. I knew how to design, but I didn't know how to run a business. So my
Mhm.
first business was incredibly successful, but I was exhausted. I was stretched to my limits and I felt overwhelmed. Every day felt like I was on a treadmill that I couldn't get off. To say that I was exhausted was an understatement. I would leave the office at the end of the day feeling totally wrecked. For me, running a business wasn't about making money. I was in my early 20s and I was, those ideal kind of
Mhm.
ideas about, what running a business was about. I wanted to work with great clients to do great work and have a team of people around me that loved being there. However, over time, I became less and less able to be there for my staff or to function effectively. So, what did I learn? What I learned in that time was that what I was doing wasn't working. I wasn't being effective. All of that information that I was taking in each day, I was storing in my brain, and it was just too much. So, over a period of time, I came across a series of tools which helped me to take what was in my head, put it into paper or onto paper, and it helped me to really clarify my thinking. So, if I was faced with something I didn't know how to do, so whether that was a staff challenge, a financial issue, or if I was unsure about a client strategy, I would use these tools to see that particular challenge in perspective. And slowly but surely, I started to feel less overwhelmed and more in control. So, 17 years ago, when I started working as a business coach, I kept meeting professionals and business owners who, like me, were completely burnt out. They were talented professionals, smart business owners, but they were overwhelmed, just like I had been, always rushing, always overcommitted. And so that's why I created Take 15. I used the tools that had helped me to develop the Take 15 system. Take
Mhm.
15 is the system I wish I had when I was struggling. It's a 15-minute daily morning routine that helps you to eliminate distractions, puts you back in the driver's seat, and has you feeling more in control and ready to tackle whatever comes your way. So, Take 15 is really the culmination of the work that I've been doing 17 years in running two businesses and then 15 years as a business coach.
So that take 15, is that about like taking 15 minutes? Or is there 15 steps? Like what is the 15 and take 15?
Yeah, so Take 15 is taking 15 minutes in the morning. So the
Mm-hmm.
idea is that you do it before you start your workday. You go through
Mm-hmm.
5 key steps using the tools that I mentioned. All it takes is 15 minutes. And I say to business owners, if you haven't got 15 minutes in the morning to start your day effectively, then why are you running a business? Yeah, so
Hmm.
it's a really 15 minutes of quick steps to go through to effectively set up your day.
Hmm. So what
Yeah.
are those steps in that 15-minute? Can you just give like a brief overview of what each one is?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Business owners are faced with challenges on a daily basis. And one of the key things and one of the steps is to record the evidence that your business is on track. So, what is working on a day-to-day
Hmm.
basis? And that's based on the idea that we have a tendency to focus on the things that aren't working.
Oh my gosh,
And
yeah.
as a species, yeah, and as a species, humanity has kind of existed that way because if all we ever did was think about the things that were working, we probably wouldn't have survived. So it's a really important thing to focus on and think about the things that are working and to keep your core really strong. So we think about a physical core. We go to the gym to strengthen our physical core. I believe that we also have an emotional core. And I think it's really important to keep that as strong as possible. So one of the steps is to record on a daily basis what is working in your business. Another step is gratitude in terms of, again, what are you grateful for, both in terms of your business, but also in terms of your personal life. And then we go into mind mapping. So mind mapping is the key tool that I use. And we go into, just doing a brain dump every day of everything that's on your plate. And from there, prioritizing what's most important and coming up with a list of 3 to 5 things that you can easily achieve in the day.
Hmm.
The other really key thing is that we look at your available time. So most of us think that we've got an 8 hour day. We go into the office and we're going to start working at 9 o'clock and we're going to finish at 5 o'clock. But the reality is, these days, there's lots of other things that get in the way, like traveling, meetings, staff questions, client, concerns, all of that sort of stuff. So when you stop and really look at it, we don't really have 8 hours a day. So every day, within the Take 15 system, we're calculating how much time do you actually have to what is your available time each day, and we work within that time. So, and that's part of the system as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love all of that. And definitely, I know we said, we had so many parallels as far as like how we overlap with our different systems as far as, and this isn't just if you're in business, if you're a leader at work and things like that. I think even at home to be able to kind of focus on what's working in your life in general. I love
Yeah.
that being able to really see where those good is. Like you said, we are pre-programmed to focus on the negative. You can have a fantastic day and have one thing goes wrong, and that's what we perseverate on. And so bringing it back to that then ties it to that gratitude, which is, like I always say, my favorite form of self-care, because I think it's underutilized and yet it's so easily accessible. So I love that. That's like the second thing you do too, because so many times people, like, because it's so simple, people push it to the bottom of the list, like, oh, that's not going to matter. That mind mapping, that dump of everything we try and keep track of. I think that probably, and I know there's so much science behind this, when it comes to our mental load, that mind mapping piece, I feel like has got to just be so freeing as far as unloading all that. Do you see that with your clients?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's actually interesting because another reason that I actually put together Take 15 was when I started to talk to other business owners and they were saying things like, I go into the office and, I have these great intentions of getting everything done and, I leave the office and I don't get done what I wanted to get done or, I'm not managing my workload or there's lots of distractions, all that kind of stuff. I kind of thought, I wanted to put together Take 15 because the tools that I'd been using, as I said earlier, were working. And one of the reasons that I realized that they were working is I came across a book by a guy called David Rock, who wrote Your Brain at Work. And all of a sudden, I realized the tools worked because they worked with your brain. And he believes that when we understand how our brain works, we can actually be more effective. And so mind mapping was one of the tools that I had been using, and I realized that it was working because it was a creative, right brain way of actually getting everything out of your head and onto paper. And we've all experienced that thing where, we're going crazy with lots and lots of things in our heads, and we sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and write a list. and then all of a sudden you feel really relieved. Well, that's because what you're doing is you're taking what's in your brain out of your brain, and you're reducing the impact on the prefrontal cortex, which is where we hold all of our information. So when we have lots of information in our head, we're preventing the prefrontal cortex from doing those high functioning activities like planning, prioritizing, and preparation, all of those things. So when we do a mind map in the morning, it's a way of actually clearing our brain so we can do those higher functioning activities.
Yeah, as well as I've even heard at night, especially if you're one of those people that can like ruminate on thoughts and they'll keep you from falling asleep, to have like a little notepad next to your bed just so you can physically write them all down, that when all those things pop in your head, like, oh yeah, tomorrow I got to make a dentist appointment. Tomorrow I got to do this, to start writing them all down so that you can actually fall asleep and relax. And I also love how you talk about, that difference between physical core and your emotional core. Like I love talking about your mental fitness and paralleling it to how, we focus on our physical fitness, but our mental fitness and resilience is so key that this all ties that in together. That last part that I know we talked about prioritizing, we'll come back to that, but that time availability, I think that's the one where we not only think we have more time, sometimes than we do, but we don't realize the overlap. We think, okay, I'm going into work for 8 hours, I'm going to focus on work. And yet we are complex beings. We are a blend of our family, our personal life, our relationships, and all those things. And they don't disappear the second we turn on our computer or walk into work and things like that. And I think if we don't sometimes even allow for us to be all those different versions of ourselves throughout our day, it can be really hard because we're distracted. Maybe we need to call somebody back. We got a message, or there's other things that come in and out, as well as just emotionally the conversations you have in the morning before work or the day before. I think not including that in part of your time available. You're going to have a chat when you come in first thing in the morning. Today's a Monday that we're recording. Everyone's catching up on the weekend. What did you do? Those relationships are so important at work that if you don't leave that time available, like you said, it's not just about being there and working.
Yeah. And it's actually interesting. One of the things that we talk about in Take 15 is the myths around time management and productivity. And one of those myths is the 8-hour day. So the 8-hour day comes from a time where, 50 to 100 years ago, people were either farming or they were involved in some form of manufacturing. So, even when my mum and dad first came out to Australia, they actually worked in factories making high-end men's suits, but they were doing piecework. And so they would get in the morning, they would sit at their sewing machines, and they would make that same piece, the same piece. It might have been a sleeve of a jacket or a pair of pants or whatever. They'd just make that same thing over and over again, and then it'd be lunchtime, and then they'd have lunch, and then they'd come back. And that's what they did all day. So they were doing piecework. Now, when you think about the kind of work that we're doing these days, we aren't doing that kind of work anymore. So the kind of work that we're doing involves, another part of our brain, which, as I said earlier, was the prefrontal cortex, and that uses up a lot of oxygen, uses a lot of glucose, and gets tired really easily. So we're doing things like, every day, and I would challenge most of the people that are listening, whether you're working in a corporate environment or you're working for yourself, you're not doing the same thing day in, day out. You're doing different things all the time. So you're learning new things, you're experimenting new things, there's new challenges, new issues. And as you were saying, your day is made up of meetings and, spending time with staff and all that kind of stuff. So when we go into the office and we think that we've got an 8-hour day and plan for an 8-hour day, and we leave the office feeling frustrated, it's because our expectations of that 8-hour day aren't realistic. So that's one of the reasons that I include in Take 15, that you calculate your available time on a regular basis, on a daily basis, so that you can be more realistic. And Take 15 is all about the more realistic you are, the happier you are. When
Yeah.
you have
And that prioritizing piece, I'm sure falls into that as well. Is there a specific tool that you use when you're helping people with prioritizing? I know personally, I use the Eisenhower matrix. Is there one that you
yeah
include?
I agree. I use that as well, but
Okay.
It's all within the 15-minute system. So when you're mind mapping, you basically put down everything that's in your head, as you were saying before, it's a great way of just clearing your mind. And then you review all of the things that are on your mind map and you decide, okay, there's 10, 15 things on there. What are the 5 key things that I really want to get done today? So
Mhm.
the 15 minutes of Take 15 is really drilling down to what is my available time, what are the key things that I want to get done. We overestimate how long each one of those things are that we're wanting to do, and then we look at those things and go, okay, am I going to be able to get those done in my available time? And if I can, that's great. And if I can't, I'll adjust.
Mhm.
Because what we're doing all the time is making sure that we're giving ourselves every chance possible to be successful. So, when you just go in and start working with a to-do list, and this is another myth. I don't believe in to-do lists, and the reason I don't believe in to-do lists is because we never get to the end of them. We
Right.
go into the office and we start working with a to-do list. We might cross off a few things, but we're always adding to the bottom of them, and it's that perpetual never ending to-do list that's incredibly disempowering and incredibly frustrating. So, we Take 15, we keep drilling down to give us a series of tasks that we can get done that are going to help us to feel more, empowered and feel better. The objective, Daniela, of Take 15, when I designed it, was if you leave the office at the end of the day feeling good about what you've achieved and excited to go back in the next day, then Take 15 has achieved its objective. So
Right.
it's not about doing more. It's about leaving the office feeling great about what you've achieved.
I love that because that's the whole point. I think so many times it's those afterthoughts that make us feel worse rather than, again, focusing on what's working. And that cycle, it looks like that's how it kind of builds on itself day in, day in. Do people set
Yeah.
a timer for 15 minutes then when they're doing this? Because I know I could probably go down a rabbit's hole of starting to like keep going and take longer or things like that. Or if it doesn't take 15 minutes, is that okay?
Yeah, totally okay. One of the things when I first teach people the Take 15 system is I actually say put on a timer.
Mm-hmm.
And you turn off everything. So Take 15 is not on a digital device, it's analog. It's a disruptor to all digital devices. It will never be an app. It'll never be on a computer. I believe that we need to remember that our digital devices are tools and that we
Mm-hmm.
need to start to use them in moderation. And I think using pen and paper first 15 minutes of your day is a great reminder that we don't need to do everything, on digital devices. So
Yeah.
what was your question? I've gone
No,
off
that was
track.
totally it. That was it.
Yeah,
And I totally agree too. I think we use a different part of our brain in general when
yeah.
we're using pen and paper. And granted, everyone has their strengths. I know when it comes to even journaling, some people like to physically write it. Some people want to record it like an audio journal. Some people, there's different ways to get those things out of you. But I think definitely to at least challenge yourself to keep trying to use different parts of your brain. When you're writing, you actually you'll remember things differently. You won't have to keep carrying that load because you kind of get in a routine by building those tangible systems of physically writing every day by doing that process. I think sometimes
Mm.
I love automating. I totally do, but I think sometimes when we automate too much, we get disconnected from the process.
Yeah. And it's actually interesting that you say that because recently I've kind of realized, because I do a lot of writing, newsletters and articles and things like that. And what I realize is if I get onto the computer and just start typing, I can just waste so much time. If
Mm-hmm.
I then stop and actually do a mind map and use pen and paper and actually get all my thoughts onto paper, it might take me sort of 10, 15 minutes. And from there I can go, okay, well, the first thing I want to talk about is this, and then I kind of prioritize what I want to talk about and what the article is about. I then get onto the computer and I waste much less time. And I think it's because computer is very step by step and very linear in the way that it works. Technology is that way. Our brain doesn't work like that. So our
Mhm.
brain is much more able to sort of look at a lot of different things all at the one time. And so when we just get onto the computer or just get onto a digital device and start working, it's that linear process doesn't always help us. So I agree, we need to remind ourselves that we can use lots of different tools to have the same, get to the same outcome.
Yeah. And in general, this sounds like not just organization or productivity type of thing, but a very creative outlet as well. Like it taps into a part of that brain to generate that creativity. Like I said, that gratitude piece, especially, is so key
Yeah.
at focusing on activating your RAS. You start noticing more of what's good throughout the day when you focus on that gratitude and things like that. So the
Yeah.
creative piece that, again, can be seen as a soft skill or fluffy or things like that, I think is really powerful when it comes to improving our output, our productivity, creativity, and all those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And just two things that I wanted to talk about there was, you know, when you're using Take 15, what you're doing is using both sides of your brain. So we're using the right brain to do the mind mapping, and then when we start to drill down and prioritize, we're using the left brain. So we're using every day, you're getting to use both sides of the brain, which is what I'm really, really excited about. The other thing is you talked about gratitude, and it's the one thing that we kind of go, you know, I don't have time for that. But it's actually interesting because if I look back in my time that I've been using Take 15, steps 2 and 3, which is recording evidence of what's working and the gratitude stuff, those 2 steps are the things that have probably given me the greatest comfort,
Mm-hmm.
and really helped me in terms of my confidence and my resilience. Doing that on a daily basis has been mind, you know, just yeah, just
Oh, yeah.
changed everything for me. Yeah.
That's definitely where the mental fitness, that strength part,
Yeah.
the other parts are a little bit more actionable, talented, where that's that personal development piece that's going to be your rock, that, like you said, your core, your foundation to everything else you're going to do throughout that day.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
So how can people find you, Helen? How can they find more about this program and the method and work with you?
The best way would be to actually just through my website, which is helen@helenebden.com.au, and just, yeah, contact me through the contact page or through my email. I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. And all your links will be live in the show notes below. So don't worry if you didn't catch it. People will definitely be able to find you. So thank you so much, Helen, for sharing this method, this mindset shift to be able to start your day 15 minutes or less and start setting yourself up for success with some simple, actionable practices.
Fantastic. Thank you, Daniela. It's been really lovely sharing this time with you.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you got something out of this episode that really made you feel seen, supported, or just a little bit more grounded. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're up for it, please leave me a 5-star review. That will help more people find the show and join this community. I'll leave you with 2 of my favorite quotes. Alone we may be strong, but together we're stronger. And when we support each other, incredible things happen. So let's keep showing up for ourselves and each other, and maybe even have some fun while we're at it. I'll talk to you soon.